In my last few videos around events, I did ask for feedback from the viewers around which festivals did you use my recommendations for, and which decks did you build and or use in those festivals, and did you have success or not? And the reason is because I do want that feedback to hopefully improve my recommendations in the future, because the way that I play, as you can see here, we have a 70% win rate in festivals, which is pretty good considering we're usually going up against, you know, the toughest pool of opponents in master rank opponents, but we're still able to be fairly efficient and successful with those recommendations. So know that if you're watching my videos for those festivals, and I know some of you have given me some really good feedback and I appreciate it, that you are getting what I think is actually genuinely like some of the best recommendations. And to just prove it to you, when I made that deck list video before the event even came out around which decks I would be using, I mentioned that I would be using LYRILUSC, mainly because I have it built and it's also very cheap anyways. But this is the deck we use. It's changed a little bit over the course of the event, but it's essentially the same. You're going to go for the LYRILUSC OTK with Assembled Nightingale, and this deck is effective for both the Xyz Fusion Festival and the King of the Island. For the King of the Island, I just finished it today, hitting my 11,000 medals, and our record was absolutely insane. Going up against, again, Master and Diamond rank opponents, you can see here in our match history, we only took 4 losses in our past 20 matches. So again, putting my money where my mouth is, using what I'm saying I'm going to use, showing you guys the gameplay of how you can use the decks effectively, and that's hopefully what you find useful about these videos. And again, I do appreciate the feedback and the increased views and the likes and everything that comes along with that. So that's going to wrap it up for the intro. Let's go ahead and take a look at how this event went for me and how we were able to maintain that 80% win rate with LYRILUSC. This match was absolutely insane. So we ended up winning this coin toss. This is like one of the second last match I played. So I lost like 5 coin tosses in a row before this, and then this is the first coin toss I won, and I opted for the opponent to go first. They set one, and I'm like, that's easy, good stuff. No lightning storm though, so we're just gonna have to hope that we can play through all of this. It's funny because the opponent's screen was like toggling on and off, or they were toggling their toggle on and off, I guess, because sometimes it would flash, sometimes it wouldn't. It wasn't really consistent where I could get a read on what the card was, and obviously they don't have max C. So we're just gonna go full extension here and attempt to OTK. We've got all the extensions and we're doing plays so that we can end up summoning a bunch of monsters to field, and the opponent reveals Torrential Tribute, and I'm like, I just played myself hard in that one, right? Oh my goodness. And we take damage off the Where Art Thou, so it's like hopeless. We end up maxing in the draw phase there, and the opponent reveals there on Yosenju, which doesn't special summon, so I wasted my max C. I got my whole board wiped, and we're likely getting OTK because this deck plays a ton of traps, which is what counters the LYRILUSC cards, right? I do draw 2 off of the slower swallow effect of tributing itself, thankfully, and we do draw Barrel Canary, which is helpful. So we're going to go ahead and Barrel Canary and special summon out the Cobalt. At this point, you know, obviously you assume that they're on something, but I go into Assembled first, and, you know, everything was going fine. It was, you know, doing what it needs to do. And then when I go for this summon right here, it, like, the screen froze, and that's how I knew they had a Solemn Judgment. So I know that they have Solemn because, oh no, sorry, it wasn't here. No, sorry. They have it, we have it right here in the Recital Starling. So, and this is how you know, guys, this is how you can tell. When I summon the Recital Starling, there's a trigger effect to boost the monster's attack. If it doesn't even let you, like, because you have priority as turn player, that should be the first thing that the game asks you to do. If it does not do that, it means they have a card to negate the summon, which is either like Solemn or like Horn of Heaven or something like that, right? Because cards like Solemn negate the summon, which means you don't even get to trigger the effect because the summon itself is negated. So that's how I knew that they had a Solemn Judgment. And so I'm now having to play with that knowledge in mind to try to play around a Solemn Judgment, okay? And again, you assume that they're on like more traps here. And the reason I go for the Assembled first is because I want to protect against another Torrential or some other destruction card. But we do have the Cobalt Sparrow on this, so it can't be targeted with like an Imperm or something. And we do have the Sapphire Swallow, which doesn't do anything on the Recital Starling. And this is the one that has all the materials, but this is the one that has the attack. So, you know, we need to figure out a way of how we're going to win this. So we're going to end up grabbing another Barrel Canary as follow-up for next turn, use the Wagtail to attach to the Assembled, and then go battle phase. The opponent has a Drowning Mirror Force, which is going to wipe out my field once again, which is absolutely insane, right? It's like, Quantum, what are you doing in this match? Just resign. Why don't you give up? And you know what? You're probably right. I should. We know they have a Solemn, which is an Omni Negate. Like, what can we possibly do here, right? Well, let's wait and see. So they're going to go ahead and beat me down for 1800 again. I'm down to 24. End phase, it goes back to their hand, and they pass turn over to us. So draw phase, we draw Swallow's Nest, and I'm like, okay. Now, if they negate this, right, I I think we just lose, obviously, right? But they have Max C, so they probably are thinking like, oh, I actually want them to special summon, then I'll just negate the critical summon with the Solemn. And again, keep in mind, I am aware that they have Solemn Judgment during this match. Them drawing Max C here actually probably won me the game. I don't know why I say actually probably all the time, but yeah, it probably won me the game. Because they didn't want to negate with the Solemn. They figured, let me get some free draws first. And as a result, we end up resolving the summons of these effects. They're going to attempt to imperm the Cobalt, and then I Swallow's Nest the Cobalt away so that I can get the effect of Cobalt to search. And so the imperm is going to fizzle, but they opt to Solemn Judgment the Swallow's Nest so I don't get the special summon of another bird monster. They take 4,000 damage for that. And I'm like, holy cow, that's crazy. I make a misplay. I should have searched for the Sapphire Swallow, because if I search for Sapphire Swallow, I'm pretty sure I could get a 4 material Assembled Nightingale on board that attacks 4 times, which is 4,000 damage. So I make a misplay there because I don't need this to be untargetable. I could just win the game. So now because that when I Xyz summon this card, if I would have used Sapphire Swallow, I would have been able to attach a material from the graveyard, which would have put it at 3 materials, 800 attack, and then use the Wagtail in the graveyard for the 4th material and boosting it up to 1,000 attack. And 4 times 1,000 is 4,000. That would have been game. So stupid me, making misplays once again when I could have won the game, coming back from an insane like double board wipe. But it is what it is. So we pass turn over to the opponent. They drew a couple cards under Max C. We activate in draw phase because we're untargetable. They've got Yosenju's and they're going to search. Okay, they grab a trap card, attack me directly, but it doesn't do anything because we're under Assembled Nightingale protection, and the card gets bounced back to their hand. They use this weird continuous spell, Summoning Curse, which they had to pay 500 life points for it, but obviously it doesn't matter right now. If a monster is special summoned, the current control of that monster banishes 1 card from their hand, so it doesn't really do anything against us right now. We're going to reattach the Wagtail from the graveyard and just go battle phase, attack for game. And the opponent does not have another Drowning Mirror Force, and therefore we're able to take it, thankfully, with LYRILUSC, despite getting our board wiped twice. That was a crazy match. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at the others. You know, it's funny because LYRILUSC technically has more consistency cards than Floowandereeze, but I actually found myself bricking with this deck more than I actually brick with Floowandereeze in ranked mode, which is actually insane. That's how I went on that 21 win streak in ranked and into master, right? If you've been watching my videos. Anyways, in this matchup here, my opponent makes me go first because we always go second if we win the coin toss. And our opening hand is actually not that bad. This card I found out was actually pretty good because, as you can see there on the normal summon, if you have more than 1 copy, you can do another normal summon of it. But when your opponent has no spells and traps, so obviously turn 1 if you go first and your opponent has no spells and traps, if it's in the graveyard, you can special summon it back, then it gets banished. But if you use it as Xyz material, obviously it just goes back to the graveyard. So if your opponent never has spells and traps, the Bird of Beginning always comes back to the field. And so you can see the kind of setup that we put here. We opted to go for the Cobalt Sparrow because we want to make this untargetable when the opponent makes us go first. And then we're going to go ahead and actually use the Sapphire Swallow and the Turquoise to get the Cobalt Sparrow back, because Sapphire Swallow special summons a Turquoise from hand. Turquoise, when special summoned from hand, will bring back a LYRILUSC from hand or grave, and we bring back the Cobalt Sparrow. So with this setup here, we're going to be able to make our Assembled Nightingale that we're going to put on field untargetable as well, with the Cobalt Sparrow being used as material. It doesn't have to stay attached. As long as it's just used as an Xyz material, the Xyz monster will get the effect. So we also just use our second Swallow's Nest to bring out the Wagtail because we want that extra card in rotation, as well as to get the Spell Surge off of it. And we're going to go ahead and activate Bird Sanctuary here and then go into Assembled Nightingale. Now this is nice because Wagtail is essentially a reoccurable resource, but also using the Swallow's Nest and putting the Turquoise into the graveyard allows me to use the Sapphire Swallow effect when it's used as Xyz material to attach that Turquoise back, because otherwise we'd have nothing else to attach. You didn't need to do it that way, but I figured why not? I get extra utility off of the Sapphire, I end up getting a Wagtail in rotation, and I get the spell off Wagtail as well. So using both my Swallow's Nests there seemed to be worth it to me. Now unfortunately the Lightning Storm in our hand is dead, and this where our Arf Thou is also kind of not useful right now. But when we survive the next turn and we can use the Recital Starling, those will come into play. So that's the turn 1 setup. Usually when you play LYRILUSC, you want to try to set up this setup here. You don't necessarily need the Recital Starling, but it is a nice extender. It is also an ultra rare, but it is very good. But your main thing is your Assembled Nightingale, because when you make this untargetable, your opponent can't imperm it, and right in the draw phase, you can use the effect to quick effect detach a material, and again, you can detach the Wagtail, which can reattach itself during your turn. from the graveyard. And then your LYRILUSC monsters can't be destroyed by battle or card effects, and you take 0 battle damage. So it protects you from an OTK 100%, and that's why this deck can be so good. We also activate Maxi in the draw phase to play around a potential Tactics talent, which is very common up in the master ranks here. So your opponent reveals that they're on Giant Ballpark, and they're going to go for the full-on extension combo here. And yes, this is master opponents, if you couldn't tell from the match history that we reviewed. But the opponent gets a pretty nice extension here, but again, we're not afraid of getting comboed out. But we do have to be afraid of the Ninja Mosquito. Now, I do make misplays in this match because I didn't actually realize that one of the cards that I'm about to use actually locks me into certain things because it's the first time I'm using it, and you'll see what I mean in a second. So off this attempted special summon off of the Seraphim, I'm just going to Maxi to draw 1. Then our turn, we're going to use Recital Starling first, and the opponent goes ahead and gets my Wagtail out of rotation by bringing the B-Trooper Sting Lancer to the field, which isn't great, but it's fine because, you know, we had them under Max E and we drew a ton of cards, so we should be winning this no matter what. We got to get the Ballpark off the field because that is also a problem. Maybe not so much anymore now that they've gone through their basic insects, but we just want to get it off the field anyways. I bring back the Bird of Beginning. I did not need to do this right now, but I didn't realize, because again, I'm kind of using this for the first time, that you can only special summon Winged Beasts for the rest of the turn. I've supplemented my deck with just a very small number of Tri-Brigade cards, and my plan was to link these off and then, you know, into the Farragut, and then Farragut extend into the Shureg, and Shureg to banish the Ninja Mosquito. Unfortunately, now I can't do that. The opponent opts to special summon the Sneaky Sea, and at this point I'm just like, okay, whatever, I'll just chain the Assembled Nightingale, and then attach the Recital to open up my Link Zone. And then I realized, oh, I don't think I can Link Summon here, because when I attempted to Link Summon with the Recital, it was like not letting me, not lighting up. And so I was like, oh yeah, I must be under restriction, and that's where the Smorg Bird came into play. So the Where Art Thou is going to grab us another copy of Swallow, and I think we use the effect to draw there, tribute and draw next turn, which is weird. We're going to summon the Recital and then use it to beef up the Assembled. I set cards because I'm just going to probably attempt to pass, and then I realized, like, no, I can probably still go for the play, right? Like, I can still go for Tri-Brigade Shureg because it is a Winged Beast. So even though I'm locked into Winged Beast, I guess I just won't go through this extension rotation here. But then I forgot about the other restriction, that is Barrel Canary, that says you can only Xyz summon when you use this card's effect. So I'm locked under Xyz Winged Beasts only. And then I'm like, oh, I screwed myself. That's okay though. We'll just not go to defense mode because, again, I'm like trying to think, and I'm pretty sure my timer was almost running out, and I end up going into battle phase. I think I could have switched these to defense and avoided getting Ninja Mosquitoed here, but yeah, they're going to be end up negating my Assembled Nightingale, and then I just used all 4 materials and go into another one here. And then when I go to end phase, because I use the effect to protect myself from being destroyed, the Sneaky Steve flips up, and it doesn't just say your opponent's monsters, it's yours as well. So his whole field gets wiped, and all they get is a search off of the one insect going to the graveyard. Forget what it's called, Resonance Insect, that's right. So they go ahead and they bring out their Beargram, but again, it's not going to do anything. We are again going to detach to protect ourselves from battle damage and being destroyed, having our cards destroyed. So we are in golden shape. The opponent here basically can't do anything. Yeah, so they just go end phase here, and now we are going to be able to OTK. So this is why LYRILUSC was so good for the event, is you have protection going first and OTK going second over with these combos, especially if you set up the right way and you understand to use the Cobalt Sparrow to make your cards untargetable. You play around Imperm, you can't be destroyed by things like Raigeki and Dark Hole, you can be Kaiju'd, you can be non-targeting removal like with the Shureg, but it's very hard to play around, and that's why this deck was so successful for the event, and how we maintained an 80% win rate. So now at this point, we're just loading up the field. We've got 7 attacks times 3100, so yeah, absolutely, we have game on board, and just like that, we were able to play around the Ninja Mosquito. Well, I mean, our opponent kind of did it for us, but we would have played around it anyways with the Shureg coming to field next turn, once we realized our mistakes, and that's how we ended up winning that match. So in this matchup here, I think it was my 5th coin toss loss in a row in the event, and the opponent actually wanted to go first, and they reveal that they're on Lunalight, which is totally fine because this deck is pretty fair, even though it does a lot of things. I mean, the opponent was comboing off for a good couple minutes here, but we can usually deal with the end board, and unless they have trap cards, LYRILUSC should be able to deal with this fairly easy because this deck is very fair. It is like an OTK deck, so you know, they want to go second, so I don't know why they wanted to go first in this instance. But yeah, they do set up a you know, I guess a decent board, but this deck does not beat LYRILUSC because we can just mitigate the damage and the destruction. And this deck all functions off of like attacking monsters, like your monsters, multiple times and just dealing like damage through like defense and all that stuff. So we can mitigate all of that again with the Assembled Nightingale, where we take no battle damage and our cards are not destroyed. The opponent's going to end on the Dryden Interruption though, which is a quick effect pop a card on the field, and it is targeting. So we obviously want to go for Cobalt Sparrow here, which will make our Xyz monsters non-targetable, right? We draw Lightning Storm for turn. We have to Lightning Storm the back row because this card cannot be destroyed by opponent's card effects. We know that they're going to get Tiger follow-up here, but again, doesn't matter. Whatever monsters they bring to the field aren't a problem because we're attacking through all that anyways. They opt to save their Dryden Pop. They're not going to use it on the turquoise. We use our Arthau and we grab Cobalt Sparrow. Normal summon it, right? So no effect. And the opponent's going to attempt to pop. We bait the negate of Dryden, obviously, because we plan to use Swallow's Nest to tribute it off the field, get another bird on field, and then we bring back the Cobalt with the Barrel Canary, and then we get the special summon of Cobalt, which will get the effect during that special summon. So we totally baited the opponent there, which is good. We get the Wagtail grabs Sanctuary, and then we don't need to do this, but we just do it anyways. Go into the Recital Starling and just grab a slower Swallow, and then use Barrel Canary to bring back that Cobalt Sparrow. Get the search off for Sapphire Swallow, and now we spam the board with 5 materials, use everything to go into Assembled Nightingale, and then attach the Wagtail for the 6th material. This is game. I think it's like 8,400 damage total, 6 times 14. We're going to end up detaching and then reattaching, because the first time we attached the Wagtail was off of the Sapphire Swallow effect, and then we detach it and then reattach it off of the Wagtail effect. So we still got 6 materials. And we have Recital Starling, which can attack into a monster for like damage that they would take and we wouldn't take when we activate the effect, which we did, of the Assembled Nightingale. So we have more than enough OTK damage on board. Use the Sanctuary effect to draw 1 since we have an Xyz monster with more than 3 materials. And as we attempt to go battle phase, the opponent just surrenders, realizing that is game. And that is how we took the match against Lunalight. Alright, this was the final match that I needed to win, and I couldn't believe I was actually on like almost a 5-win streak with this deck to close it out for the last 500 medals that I needed. We lost a coin toss, the opponent opted for us to go first. All we do is we set Swallow's Nest and pass. And you know what? Props to this guy. Love to see it. Gladiator Beasts. Such a fun deck, man. Like, oh my goodness. I wish I played the game back when this deck was relevant. It looks like such a cool deck and a cool concept. So sad that, the power creep kind of swept this deck to the wayside. But their turn 2 is going to end up being some big damage, but not OTK, which is good. We didn't need to set the Swallow's Nest, so it's a little unfortunate that we lost it under the Duster, but it is what it is. The opponent gets the card that protects them from a direct attack. But we're as LYRILUSC, we're going to easily play around it. And this is what I mean when I say, Gladiator Beasts, too much of a fair deck. It got power crept out of the format many years ago. We're going to go ahead and normal summon Cobalt Sparrow, use the Swallow's Nest to bring out the Wagtail effect to grab Bird Call, and then we're going to special summon back that Cobalt from the graveyard with the Barrel Canary, and then we're going to get the Cobalt effect to search for Turquoise, because we're going to be able to use Bird Call's effect to search and special summon the Turquoise from hand and then get the Turquoise effect. So we're going to do the Xyz summon for Recital first, so we have a targeting graveyard for the Turquoise, I believe. Do we do it this way? Let's see. Okay, we search for Bird of Beginning. We've already used our normal summon, so this is interesting. Okay, we use Bird Call to grab the Sapphire Swallow. And yes, we are going to use Turquoise to grab from grave, use Sapphire Swallow to special summon from hand the Smorg Bird, and then go into an Assembled with 1,000 attack and 5 materials. Okay, detach and reattach the Wagtail, and then use Backup Rider for the 1,500 attack boost, and this is game, even if the opponent special summons the card that can't be destroyed by battle and dumps a card when it's, engages in an attack. And I don't know why the opponent resigned there off of the final attack, but sure, why not? And just like that, we ended up winning our 11,000th medal and completing the King of the Island Festival.